We said it before and we'll say it again. We are the ones we've been waiting for. The Love Us campaign allows us to show up for one another. Together, we can fund the healing revolution collectively, one donation at a time. We are proud to have covered the cost of over $6 million in therapy sessions since 2019. But with the demand of our services skyrocketing, we need to do more. As we embark on our 4th year of making mental health resources accessible, we're placing our faith and optimism in our community by setting a bold impact goal. From now until December, we are rallying 1 million supporters to contribute just $5 each. If we succeed, we'll significantly expand our reach and provide $5 billion in therapy to Black women, girls, and non-binary folks in 2025. This campaign is about Black women pulling our resources together to build a grassroots, for us, by us movement. Join the Love Us campaign. Visit the lovelandfoundation.org to join our movement of 1 million by making a $5 donation today. Faith Broussard Cade has 15 years of experience as a professional school counselor and mental health counselor. She also worked as a baker and a food blogger before shifting to writing inspirational affirmations on pieces of handmade paper and sharing them with the world. She's a proud author of 2 guided journals and Shine Bright Anyway, 90 affirmations that declare you are enough when the world says you're not, a book on the transformative power of self-care and self-love. Her work on personal healing, wellness, and self-care advocacy has inspired over 300,000 people and counting via social media to choose introspection, gratitude, and finding peace in things most take for granted. As a mental health counselor and coach, Faith helps others discover and appreciate that everything they need to step into their power and create the lives they desire is already inside of themselves. She emphasizes self-exploration, kindness, and gratitude as the tools that equip us to live out this necessary truth. Faith holds a bachelor's in English and French studies from the University of the South, Sewanee, and a master's in education and human development counseling from Vanderbilt University. She was born and raised in the heart of Cajun country in New Iberia, Louisiana, and currently lives in the suburbs of Atlanta, Georgia, with her husband and 2 children. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Unfolding, presented by the Loveland Foundation. I'm your host, Rachel Keener, and today we are joined by Faith Broussard Cade. Hi, Faith. Welcome.
Hi. Hey, Rachel. Thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here.
Oh, no, thank you for being here. In preparation for you being on this podcast, I started doing affirmations because I call you affirmations. So ever since myself for the past 2 weeks, I've been doing morning affirmations. Some I've been using for yours, but the one my affirmation for today, I felt so connected to and so timely. I'm going to read it to you and then we'll start off. So it is, I trust the journey I'm on and I'm open to the opportunities the universe has in store for me. And something about that, right?
It's beautiful.
It really resonated. I was like, today of all days for that to be the one I get. And then the whole idea of trusting the journey you're on, when after hearing about your story and you tell me about it, and your journey in particular, I would just love for you to just first start off your journey and what brought you here to this moment to shine bright anyway. It's such a beautiful story and the way you've really made it come true.
Thank you. I appreciate you referring to it as a journey because it absolutely is a journey. I am an open book and I'm 100% transparent all the time with people when I say that when I tell my story, I'm not telling you from the perspective of someone who has made it and is looking back on all they've been through, right? There is so many, that's mostly what we get from people is people from the other side of their tough situation or this major life-changing event. And they're telling, but look at me, I made it, I did it, you can too. My approach is very different because I have not made it and there is really no other side for me. I'm telling you what I'm telling you from still being in the thick of it and knowing that I will forever be in the thick of it. because I have a traumatic brain injury. So that's kind of where my story starts. I started out my career as a professional school counselor, thought that I would do that my entire life. I was always the friend that people came to for advice, just like was always that friend. And so senior year in undergrad, I was like, oh, got to figure out something to do. Maybe this is it, right? Like maybe if this thing keeps circling back to me, maybe this is my gift. So I thought I was going to be a journalist. So I was an English major, French studies minor, had no mental health or psychology background, but I applied to a master's program at Vanderbilt University for human development counseling, interviewed and got in. So, right, it was meant to be. Meant to be.
Trust journey.
Right. Trusting the journey again, and completed my master's degree there in human development counseling, started my career as a school counselor, thought this is what I'm going to do forever. I'm going to help the babies stay mentally healthy. And on January 9th, 2018, as I was on my way to work to my job as a school counselor in Johns Creek, Georgia, which is a suburb of Atlanta, I was at a stoplight at an intersection and I was hit from behind by a tractor trailer at full speed. From that, I sustained a concussion and a traumatic brain injury, which if anybody listening knows anything about traumatic brain injuries or you don't, they are something that they don't go away. There's kind of like a spectrum of TBIs where there's people who look normal and seem to function normally, but deal with some more of those invisible challenges. And then there's people that you may see with in a wheelchair, can't walk, spinal cord injury, paralyzed, that kind of thing. So they kind of run the gamut, but that doesn't minimize the challenges of the people who are on the opposite end of the spectrum, like me. People look at me, people see me do public speaking and keynotes and all these things. Oh, I would never have known. Right. But you also don't know that it took everything inside of me to stand up on that stage and speak to you for an hour today, because my skin was crawling. The lights were too bright. I heard too many background noises and conversations going on, and I was literally looking for the nearest fire escape. I wanted to get out of there. So that's what I mean by I'm telling you that you can do this because I am doing this every day.
Yeah.
And my journey will be for the rest of my life. My journey is continual. And so I think, though, that gives me a bit of peace. It's less pressure to think that I need to be doing all these things so I can be better, so that I can arrive at this perfection that doesn't really exist. So I think it's helpful when I tell other people as well, like, your journey of growth, healing, maturity, whatever it is ongoing. You don't have to arrive. You can always be evolving and you can always be becoming.
I love that. No, something you said that I want to touch on is like this idea of like healing never really stops. You know, whether that be a physical injury or like we're trying to heal our emotional wounds or like our trauma, like we're always healing. Like perfection truly doesn't exist. And I think once we can accept that, we have this sense of freedom, knowing that like we're just gonna keep trying to heal because like we deserve to live a healthy life and a healed life. And being able to like take a moment like that where your life is deeply impacted and the lives around you are impacted, like something that like you weren't asking for, like a change that just happened to you, where a lot of times could be debilitating and like make people want to give up. Rightfully so, it's very hard, you know.
Absolutely.
And for you to show up and decide, and like this isn't to say that like it was an easy journey for you, because
Absolutely
like,
not. Oh gosh.
you probably did have to lean a lot on your village and a lot on yourself and like all the powers that may be. And it's just like, how were you able to kind of like get through that moment and get yourself to be in this place where you're not only affirming yourself, but you're affirming over 300,000 people? Like, oh my God. That's amazing. Like the joy and like the comfort you're bringing people on like your social media platforms through your writings, through your
Mhm,
story, like truly have like,
mhm,
you trusted the journey you're on and then like the opportunities came. So like
mhm.
what led you to do these affirmations from healing um in like your healing process?
Well, I am a firm believer in the saying that necessity is the mother of invention. And so that really is how this whole platform and an idea of affirmations began. It was born out of necessity. I had no other option. I had no other choice. I pray that other people are able to come to find the thing that works for them without being given some sort of life altering ultimatum. But that, in full transparency, that was my story. Had been misdiagnosed so many times and gone undiagnosed for so long, knowing that I wasn't better, knowing that I wasn't getting better, knowing that my sensory sensitivity issues were getting worse, knowing that my headaches and migraines were getting worse, knowing that my memory was getting worse. All of these, things, chronic insomnia, going 3 or 4 days straight without sleeping, like all of these things were happening. And I'm like, I'm not getting better. No one is listening to me. Just because I look fine doesn't mean that I am fine. And so I finally started seeing doctors that listened to me. And that's when I was properly diagnosed with a TBI and post concussive syndrome. And I was told that the only way your brain can heal itself is when it's in a state of rest.
Wow.
And I'm like,
Let that be
well,
a word.
I was like, well, wait, is there another way that my brain can heal? Because,
Can I work
because,
when you know?
because is there a more productive way for my brain to heal itself? Because I can't just, like my granny used to say, get somewhere and sit down. I can't just get somewhere and sit down. I have a 3.5-year-old child. And
Yeah.
I have a husband. And I recently had to resign from my job because I'm not better. So our incomes have gone from down from 2 to 1. We're trying to
Yeah.
keep the lights on, the mortgage paid, milk in the refrigerator. Like, I can't just sit and be still. What sense does that
Brain
make?
food.
Well, and then the doctors gave me an ultimatum. They said, well, either you can get somewhere and sit down and give up this facade of being superwoman and being everything to everyone, and you can take that superwoman cape off, or you will never heal from this.
Mm.
So I had to choose between that facade of superwoman and that cape, or the possibility of a future, the possibility of being able to have more children if I wanted to, possibility of throwing myself into another career, pursuing something else. And so that really made my decision for me. Life gave me an ultimatum. And I realized that that superwoman cape can trip you up every single
Mm.
day. You can be so busy doing so much for so many people and not intentionally, but just by default, leave yourself out of that entire equation, right? It's amazing how many things outside of ourselves we feel are important, are necessary, are priorities. And we'll get some time for ourselves when we can find some time, right? It's like
Yeah.
we're almost like we're an afterthought. Everything else is emergent. Everything
Mhm.
else is an emergency. Like our kids can't fend for themselves. They can't prepare their own meals. Our husbands can't manage everything in the house and figure out when all the bills need to be. So we have to do those other things. Those things are mandatory. We are optional. And that is backwards.
So, but so,
Absolutely
so
backwards.
Yeah. Oh man.
So that's where this came from. I got to a place where I had to make a choice, and I did not have money for trendy self care. I could not do mani pedis. I could not do spa days. I couldn't get massages. I couldn't go on girls trip. We were broke. So I
Yeah.
had to figure out how to care for myself in a way that was consistent and sustainable. And for me, I'd always been a writer. I used to have a food blog. I had always written in journals and diaries, and just it was my favorite thing. So I said, well, let me just do what I know. Let me just
Mm.
let me just use what I have. I had pens, I had paper, told myself I'm going to do a 15-day self-love challenge. And for 15 days, I'm going to take 5 minutes, write myself a positive affirmation, and I'm going to post it on Instagram for accountability. And almost 7 years later, still writing those notes,
Still
still
writing those
writing those
notes.
affirmations. Supposed to be 15 days. And here I am.
7 years in. There's so many, just in that alone, like the fact that you were able to kind of do this deep dive and like something that really stuck out was that your brain, in order to heal, you need to rest. And this concept of rest is so foreign to so many people because of all the things you mentioned. Like, we are trained, especially as Black women, to take care of everybody
Mhm.
else except ourselves.
Mhm.
And like, even me, I've been struggling a lot with like, how do I prioritize myself and like make myself feel like a priority? Like, how do I make myself
Yes.
feel like not optional and like an afterthought? Because I will be the first person to be like, oh, you need something? I got you. Oh, it's like, just
Oh, absolutely. Mhm.
say less. What do you need to buy? I can get it done sooner.
Uh-huh.
But then it's like,
Mhm.
Rachel, you need to do this for yourself. I'm like, oh, I can do that later. Like,
Uh-huh.
I can,
Mhm.
like, my goal for this month is to find a primary care physician. And like, I'm just like doing everything else. Like, it's going to be exhausting. So, like, the idea of like, in order to heal, you need to rest. And just this whole idea of like, work hard, hustle culture, like, go, 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 like, do it all. Like, it's really toxic. It's and, like, there's
It's
something to
some
say about hard
foolishness.
work and, like, yeah, it's something to say about hard work and doing things intentionally, but doing
Mhm.
things to the point of, like, where it's to your detriment or
Mhm.
working so hard or, like, you're not
Mhm.
resting, you're not taking care of yourself, like, self-care
Yeah.
truly is, like, rest, like, that's the deepest form of self-care, and, like,
Mhm.
finding
Mhm.
ways to do that has been, like, key because like, there's so many different types of rest. There's, like, physical rest
Absolutely.
where our body's, like, asleep and, like, recharging itself, but there's also rest where, like, I'm just, like, gonna, like, take a break for a second. I'm just gonna, like,
Mhm.
rest my mind, rest my thoughts, rest responsibilities for a second. And
Mhm.
these affirmations that you started came from a space of you going to what you knew and, like, what was in
Absolutely.
your core core, like, you're a writer, like, you're
Mhm.
such a good writer, and, like, you
Yeah.
also are a healer, and so, like,
Mhm.
someone who's, like, you who are healing it through, like, school counseling, and now you're healing yourself through writing in that process,
Mhm.
I commend you, like, it's such a beautiful
Thank
thing, and,
you.
like, there's no
Yeah.
there's no doubt in my mind why it became like, why your platform became so successful because of who you are
Mhm.
and what you're doing
Mhm.
for other people and reminding them of, like, to make themselves a priority, you know, to get
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think I when I started out with those affirmations, I did not start out to become something. I didn't start out to gain followers. I started out to attempt to heal something that I felt was fractured within myself. I knew that I had all these doctors, all these clinicians doing all these things. I was on all this medication, like just going to physical therapy, vestibular therapy because I had vertigo. I was seeing a neuropsychologist, a neurologist, an orthopedic doctor for my neck and my back. Like I was at a doctor's appointment almost every day and I wasn't feeling better. And I got to the point where I was like, I cannot depend on these people to fix me. I cannot depend on these people to make me better because even with everything that they were doing, and I wasn't necessarily feeling better. It was like they were stumped. Like, well, we did all we can do. We can't see anything else on the MRI or the CAT scan or the test, this or blood, whatever. Like, we don't know. And I got to a point where I was like, I gotta take over right here.
Yeah.
Like, I have to be the author of my story. I cannot let them write the narrative for me, because if I do, then what they say is, this is just how I am. And I just have to suffer for the rest of my life. I refuse to accept that. So
Yeah.
I am a firm believer in, we are a whole person. We are spiritual beings living a human experience. We cannot do all of the working out, all of the drinking water, all of the vegan, plant-based, organic, granola, Whole Foods, all that stuff, which I love Whole
Like,
Foods, nothing against Whole Foods, and all the supplements and the
mhm.
juicing and the vitamin drips and all this stuff. If our mind and our spirit is not right, it will not fix us. There are so many people who are dealing with physical ailments, right? They don't know why. Oh, I have a stomach ulcer. I have upset stomach. I have migraines. I have this or I have that. Well, what's your stress level?
Mm.
How many hours a week are you working in staring at a computer? When was the last time that you did some deep breathing? When was the last time you got out in nature and had some fresh air? When was the last time you did some releasing of stress from your body and just sitting down and being quiet? We have got to take care of our whole selves, not just the pieces of ourselves that people tell us are worth caring for. There's so much telling us, take care of your body, eat the right diet, low fat, low sugar, blah, 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 but you're working 90 hours a week.
Yeah. What's going on?
It makes no sense. It makes no
Yeah.
sense. So that hustle culture, that I'll sleep when I die culture, is destroying us, and it's running us into the ground. And that's why we're seeing more and more people with hypertension and stomach ulcers and autoimmune diseases and all these types of things, because we are not taking care of the other parts of ourselves as well. We got to do better.
Yeah, there's this like idea of like there's self-care and like there's like soul care, like
Absolutely.
how you're taking care of your soul and your spirit. And I think one thing that like many people, like myself included, have learned, especially from you, is just the power and vulnerability, the power in being honest and transparent. Because like you said in the beginning,
Absolutely.
like when people are doing those things and they post about it and like they're like sharing it, it seems like, oh, like this is what I have to do to be better. This is what I have to do to heal myself.
Hmm.
Like I
Hmm.
just have to hit this checkbox, and like you're
Hmm.
comparing yourself to somebody who's doing like a highlight reel of their life, so to speak. And so when you see someone who's actually in the thick of it, sharing like here's the reality of
Hmm.
my situation. Here's what I'm really working on. Here's what I'm going through. You feel this element of like being seen and being like heard, and
Hmm.
like you're able to appreciate where you're at in your journey more because you're just like, oh, I'm not alone in this. And I think there's
Absolutely
something
not.
so beautiful about like my truest belief is that we're not meant to do this life alone. Like
Absolutely not. We're
when
communal beings. We are
we're
communal
communal beings,
beings.
we need each other, we feel each other, like we're all together in this. And so like
Hmm.
we have to be honest about where we're at. And this idea of just being like vulnerable to say like, hey, like I need to like affirm myself. I need to like start by being like, I need to hear love on myself. I need to hear that
Hmm.
like I gotta do this for me, and like making
Yeah.
myself the
Yeah.
focus. So I'm wondering like your 15-day self-love challenge or even a
Mhm.
now, they're like a affirmation that you go to that like always ground you, something like you live by.
Hmm. One from the first 15 days. Is that what you're asking?
Or anything. But yeah, the one that's like you always go back to is like, oh, that one's a good
Mm.
one. That one hit me.
Yeah. I found my hero. She's been inside of me the entire time. And I am so proud of who she has become. That's the one. Always, always, always. Because as a former / recovering people pleaser, and yes, woman, I think not intentionally, but nevertheless, it's true. Many of us as women, and a lot of times as Black women, we have been taught to distrust our own voice. We've been taught to defer to someone else because surely someone else knows better than we do. Surely their perspective is better and more seasoned than ours. We are afraid of speaking up and speaking out and being wrong or being reprimanded or being militant or aggressive or a crazy Black woman. It's like all these things, right? And so we are desperately trying to find our place in this world. We are desperately trying to also find a way to use our voice to advocate for ourselves without making other people feel threatened. We are one of the very, very few demographics of human beings who can't just be who we are, and we can't just say what we feel, and we can't just say what we mean. We have to dumb ourselves down. We have to make ourselves more palatable. We have to, make ourselves more digestible and split ourselves up into these little chunks that people can deal with on any given day. And most of the times we are not operating in our full potential because we are so concerned and worried about how that will come off or how that will appear to the people around us, to our male counterparts, to our colleagues, whatever the case may be. And we could know beyond a shadow of a doubt that what we are saying is absolutely right. We have done the research. We gonna work, right? We work twice as hard to get half the credit, but we're gonna work. We're gonna do the research. We're gonna have our receipts. And yet still we will walk into that meeting timid. Well, if I don't know if this is right, but you know it's right. You know it's right. You've done the work. You've done the legwork. You have done the research. You have all of the evidence, and yet you don't stand in the full power of your potential and your voice and say, "This is what I have," and just leave it at that.
Just leave it at that. It's factual. Yeah.
It's fact. So that note for me helps me to come back to myself, to realize that the hero that I've been looking for, the person I've been wanting to validate me, my thoughts, my feelings, the things that I'm doing, like that person is me. I can do that for myself. I don't have to wait for somebody else to tell me I'm worthy or that I'm enough or that I'm beautiful or that I'm capable or that I'm talented or that I am powerful beyond measure. I get to do that for myself. I get to tell myself that. And who cares what anybody else thinks?
I'm like,
My hero, your hero has been inside of you the entire time. And she's just waiting, right? She's waiting. She's waiting for you to acknowledge her, to accept her, to listen to her, and to stop stifling her voice and her power and her fire. And we just have to tap into that person. She's in there.
No, like, I love that. I feel as if, like, you really have to be a friend to yourself first. You know, you
Oh,
really have to.
absolutely.
Why would you listen to all these outside voices when the voice within you is trying to say something kind and good about
Mm-hmm.
yourself? Like, the
Yeah.
first, like, I was like trying preparing for this, like, it's it's changed the way I view things. Even just a week of like doing the affirmations has just been like
Mm-hmm.
the first voice I hear in the morning is the one I'm speaking to myself. You know, I'm saying that
Absolutely. Yes.
just who
That
you are.
inner dialogue, that inner
And that's
voice.
harmful because like there's times when I'm human. I have insecurities, and that inner voice
Mm-hmm.
can be real sometimes, you know. And like
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, if that's coming from outside sources. But if I really sit down and I like really listen to like that inner voice, that light within me, I'm like speak like there's love there, you know. I'm just trying to
There
like pull it out,
is.
nurture it, and grow it, and like really like one. So I like my affirmations through music, and so there's this one song,
Oh, nice.
the Preacher's Wife soundtrack by Whitney
Oh, I
Houston.
love that movie. What is
There's
it?
this
What
song,
is it?
Your Love.
Oh my gosh,
Oh
I've
my God,
loved that song my whole life. I've loved that song.
so good. And like it brings me to
I'm gonna
tears
have to go
every
find that. Where I need to write that
no,
down.
it's
I'm gonna go
it's
for that.
always on rotation. Like that song is top 10 for me. But there's just like a beauty in it of just
There is.
like just to like at the end of the day, like you were loved, and like it's like even though this world's most priceless gift, like the finest treasure that there is,
Mm-hmm.
like it's all love, you know, and like just speaking that love into yourself, like
Oop, just
really,
found it
really
on YouTube.
there
Just
you
found it on
go.
YouTube.
It's great. Love it.
No,
Love
you're absolutely right, Rachel. There is that inner critic. Oh, she
it.
is relentless. I used to
So real
do
easy to break.
it right. She is vicious and she is ruthless and she can be real ugly and nasty at times. And I used to do this activity when I would speak at different
I
women's
love to
retreats. So I I would say that your inner critic is not you, right? Your inner critic is the voice of all of those people outside of you that have doubted you, said discouraging things to you, didn't believe in you, gossiped about you, bullied you, whatever the case may be. It's all those critical, they're the voices of other people, but they come to you and to your consciousness through your head and your voice. So a lot of times, especially it's unfortunate, especially for Black women, that voice sounds like our mom. That voice could sound like our grandmother, our aunties, and it could come from conversations that we heard tangentially, right? Like, because we're not supposed to be in grown folks' business, but you kind of heard, right, what they were talking about in the living room that you weren't allowed to go in because you can't mess up the furniture. So, right, the plastic. So it's not your voice, it's somebody else's voice. But the way that you change that is by shifting what that voice is telling you and how you respond to that voice. So I used to do this activity where I always have people bring journals or I would provide them and have people name their inner critic, like in a name that like you just hate. It could be a name of like one of the mean girls in middle school that was made your life miserable, whatever. And you name her and then you write a letter to her. So you write a letter to her as if she is another person, which she is. She's not you. She's disguised as you in your mind, but she's not you. So I forget what I used to name. Felicia is who I used to name mine because I went to school with this girl named Felicia who started out as my friend, but ended up not being my friend for reasons I still don't know to this day, but it hurt me very deeply. And then I would hear that Felicia was like talking bad about me, other people. Da, 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 da. So So I named her Felicia, and it was kind of like a cathartic experience, right? Where I am just writing out I don't like what you said about me. That's not who I am. Like anything that I have wanted to respond back to that inner critic when they're saying that to me. Like, I am beautiful. I am worthy. I do deserve to have loyal friends who stick with me, who don't talk behind my back, who stand up for me, who advocate for me. You don't get to control my story anymore. You don't get to control my mind anymore. You don't get to be my inner voice anymore. I'm taking back control of that. I'm going to be the loudest voice in my head. The loudest voice in my head is going to be the one that gives me the benefit of the doubt and doesn't make assumptions about me without knowing the truth. Right. And so you do this whole thing, and you just, even if it has cuss words in it, you just put them out there and just everything. And as I walk around, as I'm watching people do this, the last time I did it, we were on a beach. Oh, and the weather was perfect and it was so nice. Everybody's sitting on their beach towels spread out. And I'm walking around and watching people do this, and people, tears streaming down their face. And some people, I can just see their shoulders and bodies relaxing, right? Because they have been under the weight of that for so long. A lot of people were writing to their moms. Like, you told me that I would never be anything. You always criticized me. You told me I needed to lose weight. I'm perfect the way I am. I'm beautiful, and I'm wonderfully made, and I am a gift. And some were writing to their ex-husbands. I mean, you would not imagine. But the breakthroughs I saw coming from people doing that was absolutely phenomenal. And so it just goes to show that those voices in those environments we allow ourselves to be in help to frame those voices that we hear. So that's why it's even more important for us to be intentional about the people we surround ourselves with. Notice how your body feels when you're around certain people. Notice how your mind feels when you're around certain people. Notice whether there's a sense of not necessarily fear, but apprehension, like, wonder what they're going to say, or who they're going to make fun of, or how they're going to make a comment on this. Like, you need to be around people that bring your nervous system level down to a baseline, not have you at a heightened state, hypervigilant state, all around, looking around, waiting for the next shoe to drop. That's not healthy. That causes chronic stress and chronic physical illnesses as well, always being hypervigilant. We need to get ourselves to a state of relaxation and rest and calm. Find those people. Those people are your people.
Yes. Your body knows, your soul knows what feels right.
Absolutely.
Like going back to what you were saying, in order to heal, you need to be able to rest. And if you're surrounded by people where you feel so tight and tense, and like, even if these are people who you think are your friends or who you want to love or you want to be there for, you truly have to listen to your body and what your heart and your intuition is telling you. Like, really, like, do you feel at ease? Like, do you feel calm? Do you feel centered? Do you feel grounded? And like, it's like not like a hard thing to know. Like, it's like very much like, if I'm truly in my body and I feel it, I know what feels right and what doesn't. Like, our brain,
but that comes with requirements, though. There's requirements for that to be able to be the case. I think the reason that we don't always pick up on that is because we have ignored and repressed our intuition for so long that we've lost ourselves a little bit. So that radar, that intuition, that gift that we all have that used to naturally pop up, maybe when you're around a certain person, the more you ignore it, the more you explain it away, the more well, they didn't really mean that sideways comment they said about me. They didn't really mean, they didn't. Then your sense of awareness is kind of dumbed down, and you're not as responsive. You don't notice it as much. But then somebody else comes into a situation and like, why you let her talk to you like that? You don't even realize it,
Yeah,
right? Because it has become the norm. So a big part of our inability to pick up on things has become a result of us neglecting our inner voice, that intuition, that thing that tells us that something is not right. And we have to get back to that. We have to get back to listening to ourselves, because we do it in other spaces too, right? Like when our body's getting tired and telling us to take a break. Oh, well, let me just send one more email. Well, but she invited me to come to her birthday brunch. Well, I need to go because I don't want her to be mad at me, or whatever. Let me take this phone call. Let me help so-and-so. Let me And pretty soon your body is operating in survival mode.
Yeah.
And you think you're fine, but you're not fine. You have suppressed your body's natural ability to let you know when it needs rest. So all of that to say, we've got to get back to ourselves. We've got to get back to the place where we can listen to our bodies, listen to our minds, listen to our hearts when they are telling us things, because they're telling us these things to protect us. And if we don't listen, that's when we end up stuck in bed for a week.
Yeah.
That's when, we have these random aches and pains and chest pains and heart palpitations, and we're trying to go see a cardiologist when really your body is just saying, you don't want to get somewhere and sit down? I'm going to sit you down.
Your body be the first to tell you.
Right. When we don't do it voluntarily, our body forces us to do it involuntarily. And that is not fun. I've been there. I've been there so many times. Tell myself the next time I'm not going to do it that way. And then
it's hard to unlearn
end up
it.
back there again.
Yeah. No, the word requirements, it reminds me of like this idea of like boundaries. Like there has to be
Oh
a certain
gosh,
level
absolutely.
of what I allow and what I don't allow, and like what I require and what I don't require. Like you have to meet those requirements for your own sake. Like living in survival
Absolutely.
mode is never sustainable because your body's
It's not.
trying to figure out how to live, versus like how to live fully, live happy, So well, beautiful. I know we're almost coming up on our time, and there's still some more things I want to touch on. You recently released a book. Congratulations.
Thank
Shine bright
you.
anyway.
Shine bright anyway. That's it.
We love it's a book full of affirmations, and
Thank you.
I'm just I know we just met, but I'm like so proud of you for like a book is
Oh
such a
God.
like no, it's truly
You're gonna
like
make me cry. You're gonna make me cry. That's my fan.
really proud of you because I know the work and effort that must go into
Oh
it, and
girl. It's
the journey you've been on.
unreal.
And I'm just like excited for all the good things to come on it. And just we've been talking so much about healing and what it takes to get there. And like our theme for this year is all about self-discovery. And my question that I've been asking everyone this year is how has self-discovery impacted your healing journey? And what tools of self-discovery do you hope to share with others?
My healing journey actually is self-discovery. Like you said before, this devastating life event happened to me. It wasn't something I asked for. It wasn't something that I caused, right? I was a completely innocent bystander. And yet here I am dealing with the repercussions almost 7 years later. And I'm healing every day. There's some days my physical body is healing, and then there's other days where my mental and spiritual spaces are healing. It just depends on the day, because healing is not a straight line. We like to think it's like this kind of trajectory, and it's not. It's more of a zigzag, like roller coaster all over the place. Exactly. Thinking that you've made progress in this way, and then the next day, that thing you thought didn't bother you anymore has you in tears. You just never know. And so my healing journey is self-discovery, because for the rest of my life, I will be discovering who I am. I will be discovering who this new version of Faith is. I have had to come to accept that the person I was pre-accident is not the person I am post-accident. The mom I was pre-accident, it's not the same mom I am post-accident. The wife, pre and post, are different. The daughter, pre and post, are different. Before I could, I'm from Southern Louisiana. All of my family still lives there. I'm the only one that's moved away, but I live in Atlanta now. And I used to talk to my mom on the phone almost every day, like just chit chat, whatever. Post-accident Faith does not have the capacity to be on the phone like that. Post-accident Faith has a limited amount of bandwidth and capacity that I have to use on any given day. I am giving everything that I have just to do my work, see my clients for counseling, whether I'm doing social media content, which is part of my work, or I'm doing press interviews for the book, or some other kind of promotion for the book, meeting with the marketing team at HarperCollins, meeting with the editing team, just all these things, and being a wife, and being a mom, and somewhere in there trying to take care of myself. It does not leave much space for extra things. So I'm learning and discovering that I am always evolving and changing, that my new normal looks different sometimes every day, and my best looks different every day. For somebody who's a straight A student in school and loves to get straight A's, I have to realize that I may not get an A in everything every day, and that tears me apart, right? Some days I'm an A mama and a B, C, everything else. And then sometimes I'm a B, C mom and an A something else. And that's all I got. That was my best for that day, and that's enough. So something that I would tell other people and tell listeners is, you have to set the expectation, and then you have to be the one to maintain it. Other people will always have expectations of you. And most often, their expectations of you are unrealistic. They may be just not grounded in reality. And they oftentimes do not take into consideration anything that's going on in your life, right? They're thinking from their perspective of what they need from you and what they want from you. And they're not thinking about anything you have going on. So you've got to set and maintain and manage the expectations that you have of yourself. You know what your capability is. You know what your bandwidth is. Sometimes we have to say no. And I know that feels icky, and it feels sometimes it feels mean, and it feels cruel, and it feels ugly. But you know yourself. You are a good, kind person with a beautiful heart. you are not trying to intentionally hurt anyone with your no. You're trying to preserve yourself with your no. Because for every yes that you give to something outside of yourself or to other people means that there is less of you. Every yes means there's less of you to go around to the people who need you, to yourself. So you've got to make sure that your yes justifies the less. Sometimes and seasonally, in different seasons of life, those things will change, right? I'm in a season of life where I'm saying yes to a lot of work stuff because I just released a book on September 3rd. I've been saying yes to work for well over a year now throughout the writing process and editing and now, press and marketing and all that.
Yeah.
So right now my yes is very high for that kind of stuff in this season of my life. But once I, journey through and maneuver through this and this slows down, then my yes will shift in high gear to something else. So we've just got to make sure that the yes is worth the less.
Yes, it's worth less. That's truly words I'm going to be living by. And like really, no, I'm so serious. Like when people do ask me something like, where is this yes gonna, how is this gonna impact me? What's gonna result? Like, where is this yes gonna take from? And that's just like an honest way of like moving, an intentional way of moving. Because
it's logical.
It's logical.
It's logical. It's like plain math, right? If I have a pizza and I give 3/4 of my pizza to someone else, that means I only have a fourth left, right? It's basic math. So, but we as women tend to think we're going to give away 3/4 of our pizza, and yet that 1/4 we have left, somehow we're going to be able to multiply that to make it even more. No, it's gone. You only have so much. Now, we can run ourselves into the ground trying to multiply that 1/4 slice of pizza. We can run ourselves into the ground and end up having a mental break because we are trying to squeeze a whole pizza out of a fourth a slice. And we try to do it every day, which I think is why many of us are so stressed, but that is unnatural. We have to start out our day with our set expectations, with this is what I have to give. This is what I'm able to do. And that is it. Also, if something shifts or changes throughout the day, something becomes an emergency. I could have a client who's in crisis that wasn't on my calendar, but calls and it's like, hey, I need an emergency session. I'll make an adjustment for that. But then that just means some other thing that was on my calendar has to shift to the next day. It doesn't mean that I add that client onto my schedule and still try to do all the other stuff that's on it. We have to learn to be flexible and less rigid with ourselves and give ourselves grace. We do it for other people all the time. But when it comes down to us, we want to beat ourselves up. And I was thinking about this the other day. One of my notes this week, it might have been yesterday, or no, it was Monday, was this week I will hold myself accountable without beating myself up. I can accomplish my goals while giving myself grace and compassion. So you can hold yourself accountable, because we can't be out here all willy-nilly, just abandoning our responsibilities. However, we also have to have the wisdom and discernment to know when that accountability needs to be shifted, and that accountability should always include kindness and grace, just like we do with other people. We have a friend who said they would go get coffee with us and then something happens and they can't? Do we beat them up or yell at them or tell them they're not a good friend? What? No, it's okay. I understand life happens. Things come up. We'll just reschedule.
Easy.
We got to give ourselves that too. We deserve that too.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I know this is like for other people, but I feel like this has like deeply touched my soul personally, and I feel so grateful to be in a conversation and community with you.
Thank you.
Truly, like I just want to lift you up and have people support you and follow you. So let them know like how people could be in your community, how people can support you.
Absolutely. So my website is www.fleurdeleyspeaks.com. I'm sure you'll probably put stuff in your show notes and that kind of thing. You can subscribe to my website and then you'll get updates about speaking events that I'm doing if I'm in your area or if I'm possibly doing a book signing, different press, things like that. You can also, where most people follow me is on Instagram at Fleur de Lis Speaks. That's where you can see my affirmations from the past 6.5 years, but also a new one every day, sometimes two. And also some other just exciting things that I'm doing, like collaborations and book panels and speaking engagements as well. But you really are able to get a daily kind of bite-sized nugget of encouragement that you need to help you throughout the day. And then also, like Rachel said before, I wrote a book with HarperCollins publishers called Shine Bright Anyway, 90 affirmations that say you are enough when the world says you're not. And it was just released on September 3rd. So it's brand new out in the world. Sold wherever books are sold, you can get it. It's on its way in stores now, but for now, mostly it is online. So Maximilian, Barnes & Noble, Target, Walmart, bookshop.org. But yeah, it's going to be in physical stores soon. It's has been a work of my heart and I'm so proud of it. It's a beautiful book, full color, 90 days of affirmations, as well as a personal story or a personal strategy or something to go along with it. So you can kind of think of it as similar to a daily devotional. And I pray that it blesses people and it does the work that it was meant to do out in the world. I'm just grateful to be the one who got to put it out there.
It was always meant to be here.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you, Faith. Everybody, please go support Faith. Go follow Faith. She is truly a light and we're grateful to have her. So thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for listening and we'll catch you next time. Thank you all for joining us for a very special episode of The Unfolding, presented by the Loveland Foundation. At the Loveland Foundation, we are committed to showing up for communities of color in unique and powerful ways, with a particular focus on Black women and girls. Our resources and initiatives are collaborative and they prioritize opportunity, access, validation, and healing. Since our founding, the Therapy Fund has provided financial support for therapy to over 13,000 Black women, girls, and non-binary individuals across the country. This year, our goal is to provide free therapy to at least 6,000 more. If you'd like to join us and invest in generational change, visit our website at thelovelandfoundation.org for ways to give. To stay updated on new episodes and any future programming, follow us on Instagram and Meta, or check out our website at thelovelandfoundation.org.